Hello and welcome to the gun shop. Today we're going to be talking about shot placement for deer management. The reason we're going to be doing this video is for those of you who are A, new, and B, just starting out, to sort of talk about the positives and negatives of different shot placement and where you're supposed to shoot deer. What we're really aiming for is to be as ethical as possible, to create humane kills, take them as quickly as possible, sort of make them expire very, very quickly, humane kills with minimal meat damage. And that, as stalkers, is what we aim to do. There's no point shooting in the guts and letting it run off for a week, right? So, to achieve that, you need to be really familiar with the insides and the internal organs of a deer. If you don't have the ability to shoot them, there's a lot of images available online, as we'll put up here, of sort of x-rays, if you like, of deer. So you can see where the heart and the lungs, the liver, the neck and the brain are all placed. And that's actually a really important thing to study, because if you're going to shoot it in anywhere but the heart and lungs, you kind of need to be vaguely familiar with where the spine is, where all the other bits are, and you kind of need to know what's going to happen, how it reacts if you shoot it a bit far back. It's worth spending a bit of time on YouTube. There's a lot of channels that will just put up pictures of lung shots, liver shots, heart shots, head shots, and you can then see the reaction. A lot of the time, once you've pulled that trigger, you cannot see where you've hit it, but the only thing that will give you an indication is obviously the reaction of when you've hit it. The difference between a heart shot and the liver leap and all that sort of thing are quite, they're not different, but they are quite different. So that familiarity comes down to the vital zones, which is where we shoot deer. Zones which you can put a bullet into to maximise or minimise, I suppose, the time between pulling the trigger and that deer ceasing to exist, expiring entirely. Those be the head, the neck, the heart and the lungs, and that between those three, those are the most accessible and quickest ways to shoot deer. The first shot we're going to talk about is the heart and lung shot, what we call the engine room. That's sort of straight, essentially. If you follow the front leg of the deer up, as you can see in this image, that front leg kicks forward and then back to the scapula. If you follow that triangle, that is essentially what they call the vital triangle, the engine room. If you put it in that area, it's going to die. Perhaps not the quickest or most instantaneous of kills. If you use the right bullets, it will fall over very quickly and die. However, I've witnessed a few things be shot in the heart and lungs, and it doesn't always guarantee instant death, but it's a very, very quick shot. More importantly, it's a big target area. If you're going to be shooting deer of anything but prone, if you get excited, and until you have a certain level of experience, you will get excited and mess things up. People go, it's a massive target, how can you miss? I've seen people miss, I've seen people gut shoot, I've seen all these sort of things. You want to aim for the biggest possible target. You're looking at probably about the size of a football in terms of actual target area. Most people will say about a 4-inch circle. That's the heart and the lungs. The lungs are obviously the big target. The heart is a small target. What you want to aim for, like I say, the perfect shot in that scenario is you get your heart, which is about the size of your fist, maybe a bit smaller, really, depending on your deer species, a bit bigger. What you aim to do really is cut the top of the heart off. That's where that would create maximum pressure loss. That will also demolish the lungs, knock the wind out of it and knock it over. That is your perfect scenario. Let's say you aim a bit lower, you're going to cut the bottom of the heart off. Because of the way angle you shoot deer, that will often not result in particularly consistent kills. So you want to aim a little bit higher, perhaps, than a little bit lower. The lungs obviously rise a lot higher, and if you aim a little too high, you're going to put it through the actual scapula, and it's not going to be able to run anywhere. Its front shoulder is going to be destroyed. You get a lot of meat damage if you do that, but it's not going anywhere. I can't advocate any of these apart from putting it bang in the centre and shooting off the top of the heart and lungs. However, with a little bit of error, you're still going to drop that deer. Next, I'm going to talk about headshots. Head shooting is a really sore subject. A lot of people don't like it, don't think you should do it outside park deer, and I'm going to tell you why. It's a tiny, tiny target. The actual brain of a deer is about the size of a small apple. A tangerine. You know, it's not very big. Tennis ball, smaller than a tennis ball, depending on deer species once again. That target is moving around a lot like that. You know, it's on the end of a big stick, the neck, and it can move very quickly. If just a small movement will result in you missing. Missing's fine, actually, in this scenario. That's about the best case scenario. The worst, you could put a hole in its ear. That's not the worst. You could shoot its nose off. It's going to run. You can shoot its jaw off. It's going to run. And you will not find these deer. You know, they can run with a jaw off, live for a couple of weeks, and they will starve to death. That's really, really bad practice. Why most people do not allow headshots unless it's in a park and it's in a capped environment, and if you screw it up, it will not hurt. Best obviously with a headshot, if it's looking straight at you, to plant it straight in the middle of its face and it will die. However, it's a small target area, and for those of you and a lot of people, and me included, I'm not very happy taking headshots. You've got to trust your rifle zero implicitly and trust your skill immaculately, when it's so easy just to go straight up the front leg, halfway up the body, bang, dead. The deer's on the floor. It's quick, it's easy, it's got a huge margin for error, and that's quite pleasant. I just want things to die, and I don't like things being messed up. I used to when I was younger, perhaps take more risks, but we just don't anymore. There's no need. There is no need. Next is the neck shot. The neck is obviously quite a long bit. You don't want to shoot it in the spine because you'll just paralyse the back half and it'll drag itself off on its front feet. A really horrible sight. It's probably screaming. So you have the high neck and the low neck. The high neck, probably one of my preferred shots if you're not going for an engine room, because it is the best of both worlds in terms of a neck and a headshot. If you are shooting a side on deer, you have, if you pull to the left, you're going to shoot it as a headshot. If you pull to the right, you're still going to hit the spine. If you're low, you'll hit the spine. If you're high, you'll hit the spine. It's about the perfect shot. The worst thing that will happen there is if you shoot the windpipe out, it's going to run quite a way. However, there's still a big margin for error, and I cannot advocate it as a thing. It is not the perfect thing to do. However, it's something that you have, a tool in your arsenal, a bit like head shooting. If you're in high crops, you need to get fallow down. You don't have a lot of choice but to head or neck shoot. And I know lots of people very capable of it who do. You know, we all go out and aim to put the bullets on our thumbnail, but I know a lot of people who were happy with the palm of your hand. That is heart and lung. That is a headshot. And that's the way to look at it, is measure your skill against each other and shoot at 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 150 yards and see where those things happen. You have to be super confident in your gear and your ability before you even think about head shooting. It's just something that's probably best to be avoided. However, like I say, a tool in the arsenal, you pick it up and you use it when you need it, right? Those are your three vitals really: heart, lung, head and neck. If you pull a little bit back, you know, if you've got the whole front half of the deer to shoot at, that's target one. That is your vital zone. If you decide not to do that by accident and you pull it a bit back, the first thing you're going to hit is the liver. That usually will result in some death. It will just take a little bit of time. As long as you're using the right ammunition, this will bust the diaphragm, probably rip the back of the lungs out, and it will die. It's just going to take some time. Worst case scenario in that is that it will disappear, but it's not going to go that far unless you have clipped it on an angle and you've gone into the back of the lung, or the back of the liver and into the guts. In that case, it's probably going to go quite a way, and that's going to be a real hard one to find. You need to call a dog. You step back another 6 inches, you're shooting it in the guts. If you shoot it in the guts, it will do a big arch. It will look like it's being sick, unsurprisingly, because you probably pushed the sick out of its mouth. And it's going to run. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they sort of mill around looking sick, not knowing what's going on, and that is why when you pull the trigger, the first thing you do is this. Get the next bullet in there, because you never know, and you never know. You're always super confident, you go bang, you know it's a good shot, but you never know when it's not, and you're not always sure when you've messed it up. Usually the guts will make a really big thwop sound, like banging a massive drum. Essentially it's exactly what it's doing, it's popping a massive balloon. It's a nasty sound, and I hope people don't do that. So always better aiming slightly further towards the deer than you are slightly towards the rear of the deer. Angles. Angles are something that you should be really concerned with, perhaps. If it's not a full broadside deer, which is what we really aim for, you've got to think about what your bullet's going to do. If you aim in the same spot as you do broadside when you're at an angle, that heart is sometimes 6 inches inside the animal, talking about whichever species it is, and by the time you shot it at 45 degrees, it's now going to end up, that bullet's going to be 6 inches behind. You're going to place the lungs, the liver, and probably out the back. That's probably okay, but really what you're looking for is that instant kill, so you need to bring your angle back round. That's why we look for full broadside, because you avoid all bones, apart from ribs, which obviously can make a bit of a mess, and that's okay, really. All you're looking for is it to die. Mess isn't entirely an issue. For example, if you shoot it now straight on, the bullet's going to go straight through and into the guts. What we're looking for is not to pierce the guts and to contaminate that meat. We're looking for a nice clean kill. So always try for the broadside. However, a 45 degrees is about as much as you want to push it. So just a little bit on the end, and I'm going to talk about something called the Texas heart shot. It's something you can see it on YouTube. I think I've never actually seen it happen, and that's not something I particularly want to see happen. This is how you gain access to the deer's heart, by shooting it from behind, straight through the bum, through the guts, into the heart. Something you should be aware of, something you should never ever do, but watch it on YouTube, it can be enlightening. Alright guys, take care. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. And good luck for those who haven't been stalking. For those who have, thank you once again for putting up with me. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.